To say I got off to a rocky start with my in-laws is a bit of an understatement. My husband is an East Indian who was born in London, whose parents had a traditional arranged marriage. I, on the other hand, am a blonde-haired, blue-eyed white girl with Midwestern parents who had never even tasted Indian food before I met my husband. Let's just say that I wasn't exactly what they had in mind for their only son. For fear of their reaction, my husband didn't even tell his parents he had a girlfriend until after we had moved in together. Even after our relationship was out in the open and going on 4 years, they sent him a list of potential brides, complete with bios and pictures. Once we got engaged, they realized I wasn't just a phase. They made an effort to get to know me, but it's accurate to say that things were still chilly between us. After the chaos of planning our wedding, they began to soften a little bit. We had a traditional Indian ceremony as well as a Christian church ceremony. However, the wedding also brought out a lot of the differences between our upbringings. My family is small, and I was never really close to either sets of my grandparents. My only cousins lived all the way across the country, and we didn't visit them often. My husband, on the other hand, has several aunts and uncles, tons of cousins, and was clearly the favorite of his ba, his grandmother. Each new auntie that I met told me that Jeetal was their favorite. My in-laws thought 800 to 1,000 wedding guests was a good number. I don't think I even know that many people, let alone that I would invite to my wedding. Even after we'd been married for a year, I became pregnant with twins, things were still a little strained. Whenever we were at their house, they spoke only in Gujarati, leaving me feeling out of place and more than a little bit bitter. After the girls were born, I became fiercely protective of them. It started in the hospital when they came into my hospital room with a bag full of fragrant Indian food and a few relatives that I had never met. My in-laws were full of advice about everything, from what I should be eating to how to get Macy and Avery to sleep. I was so overwhelmed with taking care of my twins that polite responses to their inquiries about why my babies cried so much were beyond my capabilities. As the girls got a little older, my in-laws grew into typical grandparents. They gave my toddlers all the M&Ms they wanted, spoiled them with way too many loud plastic toys, and called me every day. They often got annoyed with me if I was too busy to answer the phone or we didn't visit them often enough. Every time my girls were sick, they had some new home remedy that I thought was nuts, like putting onion slices all around your house to cure a cold. When they babysat, I knew my girls would be up way past their bedtime and I would pay the price the next day. Looking back, I sure wish that I could have relaxed about it all, but I was a first-time mom and religious about my girls' routine. Every time they didn't follow my instructions, it felt like a personal insult. I think I still harbored feelings of resentment toward them, and I did not feel like part of their family. Right after my girls turned 2, I got pregnant again. I was exhausted taking care of 2 toddlers while pregnant, and I started to take my in-laws up on their offers to watch the kids more often. The more time they spent with them, the more I started to notice how much fun my girls were having with their ba and dada. My mother-in-law has endless patience with children and always gets right down on the floor to play with them. She bought them saris complete with matching bangles, and they had so much fun dressing up and dancing. She gets them involved in whatever she's cooking, and they're always more willing to try new foods at her house than they are with me, and I was so grateful for the help. I agreed to let my mother-in-law stay at our house and take care of the girls while I was in the hospital recovering from the birth of my son. When I came home, all the laundry was done, the girls were happy, and my husband was thrilled to have a fridge full of home-cooked food. The real turning point for me was a trip to Disneyland. My son was only 6 months old, and my girls were 3, and we decided to make the drive to LA. My husband suggested that his mom come along, and having an extra pair of hands sounded good to me. The trip turned out better than I could have imagined. My mother-in-law sat in the back of the minivan for the whole drive down and fed and entertained all 3 kids. She really bonded with my son on that trip. She went on the Winnie the Pooh ride 5 times in a row with the girls, took my son back to the hotel so he could eat and have a nap, and my husband and I even got to go out to dinner 2 nights in a row. But most importantly, I really noticed the relationship that she was building with my kids. All 3 of them light up when they see her, and not because she's always slipping extra pieces of gum in their pockets. Watching her with my kids during that trip, it became clear to me the relationship that I had missed out on with my own grandparents. After we got back, I felt like I had finally found some common ground with my mother-in-law. We began to feel more comfortable around each other as we bonded over the drudgery and the joy of childcare. My in-laws are incredibly proud of their grandkids, and even though they don't articulate it, I know somewhere deep down they think I'm a good mother. My twins are now 11 and my son is 8. They still light up when they see my in-laws, and they still give them way too much candy. But my 3 little children have finally helped me do what had been a struggle for so many years, become a part of their family. My children have something invaluable. Loving grandparents that are nearby to spoil them, and I can only hope that they realize one day how lucky that they are. Today, when I think of my mother-in-law, I am no longer bitter. I think of her as my ally. Thank you.